And now, from Norwich, it's the Quiz of the Week.
So this is the top 10 scaler video that I've been alluding to for some time now. Finally managed to get my backside into gear and actually start the recording process, and I'm not quite sure where this is going to go. I think I know where it's going to go, and I hope it comes out okay. But one thing I've decided not to do is do a mammoth amount of waffling on this, because it's fairly difficult really to know how to peg this review as regards to what type of detail I'll go into, how I do my scoring and all that stuff really, and obviously something I can't do in reality is actually go through every single processor and rig them up to all my consoles in turn and give some video sort of feedback on the quality. That would be an absolute nightmare to do that. I mean, I could technically do that and it would be possible to do it, but it would be a nightmare, and I suspect the video would be like 4 hours long, and so I don't really want this video to be mega long. It's not going to be like an hour's video, because I don't want you guys falling asleep. So I've tried to sort of peg this at a sort of intermediate level really, as regards to what I'm judging against on each processor. Like I said, it is fairly difficult to know actually what things to judge, and some of it to a degree is subjective, certainly based on my view. So don't take this review as being my absolute statement of what is good, bad or indifferent about the processors. And basically what I will do is I will go through a fairly strict and hopefully unsubjective view on some scoring criteria for each processor, and I'll do that sort of graphically. I won't talk about it, and I might just sum up a bit at the end of the video actually as regards to some of my thoughts, because actually just going through the process of scoring the video processors, scores don't tell you everything, so it's not strict in my opinion. You just go by the scores. There are some other things that my scoring mechanism isn't taking care of, but just to go through the type of things that I'll be going through as part of the scoring, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 factors on each processor, and it's fairly sort of basic scoring criteria. Like I said, I'll just quickly go through those so you know what they are. The first one is 240p quality. So ranging from poor, okay, good or excellent, how does each processor deal with a 240p image? Next one is deinterlating capabilities. How well does a processor deinterlace an image? 480i image, and again that is ranked excellent, good, okay and poor. Thirdly, we have does the processor accept a 480p progressive, or 480p input? Not all processors do, and that's to distinguish whether or not some do and some don't. Has the processor got a native SCART input? Obviously, certainly within Europe, you know, most people have got SCART enabled consoles, you know, certainly for RGB, so that's just to distinguish whether or not you can actually natively connect a SCART connection type to the video processor scaler without having any extra bits and bobs attached. Has the processor scaler got a normal video input? You know, there's people out there that have consoles that aren't SCART RGB enabled, for instance, and need video input, so that's to distinguish that or not. Next one is, has the device got a super video input? Same again. Has it got a component input? Sort of moving on to the output side, has the processor got a VGA output at D sub 15? I know this is becoming less and less of a type of connection you can certainly have on the most recently released LCDs, plasmas, etc. It's still available on the PC monitors, but again, it's starting to be faded out now. So, but it's still a valid question in my opinion at the moment. Has the device got HDMI output? Obviously for current gen screens, TVs, etc. And like I said, VGA or D sub 15 connections are starting to be phased out now on screen. So certainly going forward, that's going to be an important thing on a device. Is the device currently available now, new? I think that's fairly important. You know, can you buy it now, or is it a device that you've got to buy second hand, which has its own issues with it potentially. And a number of these items that I go through as regards to the video processor list, I haven't graded them as such on this, but some of them are fairly rare and can be pretty expensive. And you know, so you couple those two together, and that's a possible downside. And finally, does the device natively work with a SLG-3000? You know, obviously, if the device is HDMI output only, it won't work with an SLG-3000. You've got to get another device to sit between, so that's to distinguish that. And also, certainly one of the devices I've got doesn't work natively with the SLG-3000. It needs another, even though it has a D sub 15 out, it needs a bit of jiggery pokery going on to get to work with an SLG-3000, so that will effectively knock that processor down, in my opinion, as regards to rating against that. So they're the actual questions that I'm asking myself about each processor. Like I said, this isn't meant to be a be-all and end-all in video processing. It's just meant to give guys a bit of a heads up, really, to see what's available, and hopefully to have an informative video. So then guys, and there we have the top 10. I suspect if you saw my last video on the XRGB-Mini stroke Framemeister, you will have no great surprise to yourselves or shock that is actually topping the chart of my top 10 of scalers and video processors for retro type consoles. And I suppose it's actually worth making a slight point about that this is about retro consoles. So it's predominantly for 240p consoles that you want to connect to a video processor. So the actual scoring, I suppose, in some way, shape or form is certainly more biased towards that type of remit. Just looking through the sort of top 10. Okay, you got three XRGB minis at the top. Sorry, you got the three XRGBs at the top, topped by the Mini, followed by the 3 and then the 2 Plus. And they're very close as regards to their 240p quality, but the XRGB Mini just does everything. So it is a awesome all-rounder, and it's available now. But it's not particularly cheap. You know, the unit itself landed in somewhere like the UK is around sort of £300–310, so it's not particularly cheap, but the results are pretty outstanding, to be honest. There's quite a draw there for the 4th place. There's 3 joints at 4. There's a DVDO Edge and the 2 Cinemateq video processors. You may be slightly surprised to see those 2 processors joint 4th with a DVDO Edge, because the DVDO Edge is a pretty decent all-round device. It's not bad at 240p, but it's not particularly great. It's got a bit of a ringing issue on 240p video representation, which sort of knocks it down a bit, certainly in the 240p stakes. But it's got an absolutely fantastic interlacer, fantastic deinterlacer. Also just scaling pretty well as well. So, and also you got coupled into that, even though this isn't what this particular top 10 is about, but it is also a great video processor, you know, for films, TV, etc. As an all-round video processor, that is pretty shit up, to be honest. But in this test, it's come out in 4th position, or joint 4th. I suppose really as an honourable mention, even though it's fairly low down in the pecking order, is the SLG-IN-A-BOX. Now, it's not great at deinterlacing. It's not particularly great at recognising and reproducing 240p signals, but coupled with the SLG-3000 built into that unit, that makes a massive difference. It really does make a massive difference to 240p content. So even though it's actually 5th in this top 10, but actually it's 5th, 6th, it's 7th in essence, because we've got some joint places at the 10 units. But for a lot of people, that will be a fantastic unit. It's readily available, it's fairly reasonable to buy, and it just works. So, you know, with the SLG-3000 built into it, it makes a big difference on 240p content. It takes a lot of the crappiness, shall I say, out of the 240p processing, and makes it a lot sharper. So that's certainly worth a honourable mention, I think, and in some way, shape or form, it is perhaps further up my list of processors purely because of the price and availability of it, and it does do a pretty decent job. Like I said, with the SLG-3000, it does look nice. It does look nice. Optoma HD-3000, that's pretty low in the pecking order on my top 10 list, basically because it's not really good at 240p. It will correctly recognise 240p, will only do it via component, and it doesn't work with every single game. Now obviously there's not many consoles that would do 240p by component, the main one being the PlayStation 2, but because it's a bit hit and miss, I gave it a really low score for 240p. But for handling a 480p image, for instance, you know, from an Xbox, for instance, you know, via VGA, it is pretty outstanding at scaling. Out of all the devices, it's probably got the best scaling engine. So in some way, shape or form within the processors I've got, it would probably be worth using the Optoma for any scaling that I wish to do, to get really accurate scaling, and couple that with an XRGB-Mini. So to get the best of both worlds, or all worlds really, for what I would need for retro gaming. But for the purpose of this top 10, it's been ranked pretty low. It's actually 6th, but in reality it is at 8th placed. But it's a fantastic unit for scaling, really is good for scaling, and it's pretty good for dealing with de-interlaced video signals as well. So I just thought I'd give a bit of a sort of personal view on top of my straightforward point scoring, because that isn't the be all and end all, but certainly as regards to the best processor you can get at the moment for retro gaming, it has to be the XRGB-Mini. It is a fantastic unit. If you want to know more about the unit and a real in-depth review of the unit with various consoles, then please check out the video that I've already put up on my channel. That's available. As per usual, guys, if you've got any comments or queries or questions or whatever, please feel free to make a comment or drop a question below, and I will do my utmost to answer them. I'll speak to you again soon.